Um, I want to start out by saying my studies, all of my degrees are in communication studies, so education research is actually a little new to me. So I like to talk about feelings a lot. And so I'm trying to work through some of these ideas from a variety of kind of perspectives. So I'm going to try this thing here. So if you actually do want to ask a question, like in the middle, like you can put them in and it'll come up and I can kind of respond to this and we can have it like slightly organic. Or if you want, you can raise your hand. I'll try to incorporate things. So the first thing I want to ask is, it's kind of address is why are we talking about Wikipedia? And, you know, I think the answer is probably a little obvious to most of us because, you know, you're thinking about these things, but just by a show of hands, how many of y'all have used Wikipedia? Okay, so that's all. How many of y'all have used Wikipedia in the last week?
Probably.
Most everybody. How about in the last day? Okay, so so right. How many of y'all have ever edited Wikipedia at all? Ever edited anything on Wikipedia? Okay, a few of you. How many have made more than like a small edit? Like more than like fixing a little typo or changing a word or something like that? Okay. Let's see. Nobody raised their hands. Nobody. Except, well, I mean, I guess my hand has to be up. But my hand's always up for all of those things. So, but I want you to understand that Wikipedia is one of the top websites in the world. As you've all kind of evidenced, everyone here has used Wikipedia. You all know what Wikipedia is. It's also the only one of the top websites that is not a multi-billion-dollar organization. It is a nonprofit. So when you see the little $5, please give me $5. This is Jimmy Wales, please give me $5. Please give them $5. It goes towards server costs. They have a very small actual staff because Wikipedia is, you know, as you may or may not know, a lot of students don't. They think it's written by us. They're like, ooh, professors write it. No, it's written by volunteers. But everyone is using Wikipedia. But most are not editing, as you can see. Like some of you might have fixed ooh, I saw a typo. I'll fix that. Ooh, that was really difficult. I don't want to do that anymore. But the real reason is that students are using Wikipedia. And they're using it all the time, but they're being told that Wikipedia is not something you're supposed to use. During the research, I had asked a lot of different questions. One of them was, you know, were you told at any time to, you know, what were you told about Wikipedia when in like high school and elementary school and stuff like that? They were like, don't use it. I said, well, were you told don't use it or don't cite it? They're like, well, don't use it, but probably don't cite it. And what came across was that students were being told whatever it is that we tell our students, don't cite it or, you know, be careful with it or whatever. What they're getting, what they're feeling, what you're saying, and what they're thinking about is don't use Wikipedia. As we've all seen, everyone's using Wikipedia, so they're being told don't use it, but they're using it. And this is the problem because they're being told that Wikipedia is untrustworthy and you need to go do research. When we tell students go do research, what our idea is that you go to the library, use some databases, they Google. When my students say, oh, I did some research, what do you mean by that? They're like, well, I Googled it. Okay, and what came up? And, you know, it's a variety of things. So there's a series of issues there that kind of come down to what the Stanford study kind of came up with was basically students' ability to understand and reason with the information on the internet is bleak. We're you know, there's a lot of issues going on. And the thing is, it's not the brand new fake news and everything else. This has been going on for a long time. You know, Bernays in the 20s, you know, started his campaigns. I mean, one of the classic Bernays campaigns was women smoking outdoors in a parade, smoking proudly. It was seen as a women's liberation, but it was a smoking campaign. So we've been inundated with kind of like fake news from a wide variety of places for a very long time. But now it's moving faster and faster and faster. The problem with telling students that they're not supposed to use Wikipedia, but at the same time we know they are, it's abstinence-only Wikipedia education. This is a problem. It's in their pockets every day. They're using it all the time. They're thinking about it, but then you're telling them no, 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 no. So what do? They go to the Google, and they read all sorts of stuff. I had students who I've asked them. I asked them questions a lot recently. So have you ever seen anybody share The Onion without realizing it was The Onion? You know, without realizing it was satire. They're like, yeah. Like, when you Google a thing and you don't know what the website is, and you're trusting the information because it's just as trustworthy because they're being told that Wikipedia is not working, there's a problem, right? They're on it every day, they're using it, but they're not being educated about how it works. And, you know, this is the issue, is that we are trying to tell them, this media literacy, we're saying, you need to ask questions, be wary of it. The problem is that it worked. We did a really good job at telling students and other people, you need to be wary of information. Well, now they're wary of all of the wrong information. So they're trying to piece it out together, they're talking through each other, because one information is totally legitimate, but like it just has just as much weight as this other information that's totally false. And they can't tell the difference. The thing is though, you know, maybe back in the back of your head, you're like, well, you know, maybe Wikipedia isn't super trustworthy. This is just a smattering, but there have been dozens of studies that have shown that Wikipedia is just as trustworthy as Encyclopedia Britannica. It is, I mean, this is the pedia part of Wikipedia. It is an encyclopedia, right? It's not a primary source. Like I still tell my students, you don't cite Wikipedia. You don't cite the encyclopedia. And I definitely don't cite the dictionary. Oh God, I hate that. According to the dictionary, no, actually, maybe something else. Let's go with that. There have been numerous studies that say Wikipedia, for most of the, especially the main, some of the main information, like the type of stuff the Encyclopedia Britannica, the articles are just as comprehensive and they carry just as many errors as these professionally published pieces. So, with that, maybe we should talk a little about what is Wikipedia, because definitely students don't understand, and I'm sure you all have a pretty decent understanding of at least the encyclopedia, but it isn't just an encyclopedia. So this is why I got involved with Wikipedia. I think we can all get behind this. Imagine a world in which every single human being can freely share in the sum of all human knowledge. Wow. I mean, this is why I'm a teacher, right? Like this is what I want. I want to share. I want all the human beings to have access to all of human knowledge. So this is what they're trying to do. They have this grand vision of, let's just gather all the information and give it away to everyone. It's like super utopian. But the way that they do that is they have a kind of a semi-structured kind of pseudo-anarchy, kind of like, but it's a wikiocracy is what they'll call it. But it has 5 pillars, right? It's an encyclopedia, which means a lot of things, right? Because an encyclopedia should be kind of written from a neutral point of view, but they double down on that. Neutral point of view should be free. Anyone can use, edit, and distribute. And, you know, be nice to each other, which is a work in progress, like everybody being nice to each other is tough. But then there's this last one which says no firm rules. The problem is with Wikipedia is that because of that, they create lots and lots and lots of policies about how to kind of self-govern and regulate. So it does get actually pretty complicated. But in general, these are the pillars that they keep coming back to. And like, this is how the community is organized. Wikipedia itself has it's probably closing in on 50 million articles. It has 11,000 new articles a day, and other languages need a lot more attention than the English Wikipedia, but 250 different languages. If any of you all teach any like translation, Wikipedia, this is a ton of work there to translate from English into other Wikipedias, and it's incredible work because it has significant effect on the folks that like English is not their first language. So you know, Spanish is doing pretty good, German is fantastic, French is so-so, but outside of that, it's the Wild West right now. They're in need of a lot of work. The thing is, Wikipedia is more than just an encyclopedia, it is a community. It is a community that not only gathers information, but it also gathers pictures, and it aggregates data, and people who write Wikipedia are not all editors. Some of them do arbitration work. Some of them work on policies. Some of them do like behind the scenes, some of them program robots, because over 1 million edits a day are done by robots in Wikipedia, because how else could you deal with the fire hose of information of people who are trying to make terrible edits? Well, robots that revert your edits because you did it bad, which is also why it's really hard to edit Wikipedia these days and make it bad. So Wikipedia, so now we kind of have an understanding of this like huge, massive piece of information, like that they're trying their hardest to give it all away and make it the best they can. There are some issues with it. And so educating with Wikipedia is really helpful, not only, and we'll definitely, I'm kind of burying the reason why I'm here, which is talking about why it's good for education, but also if you are interested in the idea of like, you know, sum of all human knowledge, giving it away for free, which, you know, I'm with you, I'm a little bit of a hippie, it does have its issues. And one of the reasons why it has these issues is because the community is much smaller than those of you all who, as you can see, no one here has actually made a significant contribution. Right? You will all read it. 1/2 of 1/10 of 1% of readers are editors. Now, an active Wikipedian is considered to be someone who has made more than, I think, 5 edits in the last like 2 months or something like that. It's not that much. There are times where I am not an active editor. But the issue is that it is very much homogeneous. It is 90% male. It is mostly white. So the average Wikipedian is 18 to 35, white male with some college or a college education. And usually unmarried and no children. It turns out that once people have children, they don't have time to write a general knowledge encyclopedia. which is why they're losing active editors. But this becomes an issue. Okay, it becomes an issue in a lot of different ways. One of the ways that this has become an issue is that only 17.5% of Wikipedia's biographies are of women, and here's actually what's really great is that because of the education programs, this is up from only 15% from only a few years ago. So there's active, excellent work going on, right? This is so the Wikipedia's featured articles, which featured article class is a class of article. We could be here for literally days to talk about all the little bits of Wikipedia. But featured article class, when you get to featured article, it means that the community has kind of come together and voted on it and said, like, and there's a lot of work that's been done and saying this needs to go on the front page, saying this is an excellent, Wikipedia article. So it's voted on. It goes through a variety of things. But it's a good indicator of saying where is the work of Wikipedia, those who are editing, where is that labor going to? Like what topics? And look, I know some of the guys from that slide that I'm pointing out, they're all 90% male. I know some of these great guys. And they are volunteer editors, which means they want to edit the stuff that they're interested in about. I'm not going to, hey, look, if you like warfare and sports and music, cool. That's awesome. Go edit that. That's great. But thank you for your work. You are giving that knowledge away to all of humanity forever. Wonderful. Problem is that we've got warfare, sports, music, and video gaming, and then way down here, language and linguistics. And you can see that there's a gendered kind of bent to what's being worked on. And that's because we have such a homogeneous set of editors, right? Compare this to what's going on in wiki education. It's kind of like we've almost flipped it, right? And I've done this. This is a count of articles worked on by. I classified because we don't have a ton of featured articles here, but these are classified by the discipline in which they've identified in their class. So this is the account of articles by discipline. And you can see women's studies, English, history, writing, it's almost like the opposite, right? We have I don't see warfare or video games here, but maybe media studies could be in video games. But we've got a ton of women's studies articles that are being worked on, a ton of English, a ton of history. That's because, as you all are aware, we have at least 50-50, if not more, of a gender split. It's not 90% male in the university, and average is about 70% women in classes that are being taught with wiki education. So we have a little bit of a difference, right? And students are bringing the stuff that we are trying to give them, and we're hoping that they use this stuff, but they're definitely using it if they're doing a Wikipedia assignment. They're bringing in information that a lot of people don't have access to, like library collections and field specific experts. They're bringing in a much more diverse perspective, especially at a place like UIC. And they're bringing in like a motivation to participate because they get it, right? They get that Wikipedia has a gender gap issue, that Wikipedia is suffering from a variety of issues related to systemic biases. And they see that because when women's studies students come in and they look for the topics about the stuff they're learning, they don't find it. The first semester that I taught with Wikipedia, I had a student who wanted to write about, she was at I don't know if you know who Seth Jolly is, he runs the Media Education Foundation. There's a lot of videos, classic videos about kind of advertising and gender. And she said, I want to write about misogyny and mass media. I said, great. She says, there's not an article. I said, great. And her article has now been viewed 1,000 times a month for the last 6 years. Okay. And it's huge. And it's been worked on since then. That article didn't exist before her because no one who wanted before, who was editing, said, you know what I'd like to do with my free time is write an article on misogyny in mass media. And she did, because that was her interest. That's what she wanted to do. I let her pick. So yes, I overestimated. So Wiki education students, 68% women, which means we're getting a much different set of articles. And this is I think about a year old for the number, but students in Wiki education courses have added 2.2 million words in gender, race, and sexuality topic areas, which is 5% of the last edition of Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay. That's a lot. So before I get into the research, like I said, I'm waiting until the end for that. I'll tell you a little bit about what the assignment kind of looks like, because I think that's one of the major questions that people have, like, what do you mean Wikipedia assignment? So there are a lot of, what's cool about Wiki Education Foundation is it's a nonprofit that is, its mission is to get people to utilize Wikipedia in their classrooms. And because of that, they've created a whole lot of kind of handouts for a variety of different teaching, like stuff for instructors, stuff for students, and stuff for a variety of different fields. And what basically the assignment does is it goes in steps from, and you can do, you can start and do just one and two, or all of them, but it starts out by learning how to review a Wikipedia page, which is basically learning what a Wikipedia page should look like, learning the skill of reading for neutrality, learning how to look at what is it linked to, what is the information that's there, what is not, and then going in and finding, utilizing typical kind of research methods, going into the databases and finding something that they can add and make a small edit. And then what I have them do is I have them go and build an annotated bibliography or a lit review, which is typical assignment. And then what they do is they basically take that lit review and they turn that into a start of an article. Because what a Wikipedia article really is a review of the literature about that topic. That's all it is, right? The intro is kind of a summary. It's basically a literature review paper that includes an intro and no conclusion. Because, half the conclusions I read are kind of mishmash together and a bunch of fluffy words anyway. So I'd rather read how is the student coming together and taking the information and bringing it together and showing me how it talks to each other. And that's what it does. And it also includes a lot of peer review, like real peer review, and an enormous amount of self-editing. When I assign a Wikipedia, the students always want to know a word count. And when I assign a Wikipedia assignment, I always tell them a word count, which is about a quarter of what a typical paper is for that kind of class. And I still accept a far less than that, because what they find that they were writing way, way more because they've edited it over and over and over again. And I'll tell you what, I've been teaching, various topics that include writing assignments for a while, and I've always tell students that they should edit their papers beforehand, and I don't know about you, but they don't. They do here, because they feel that pressure, right? There are training libraries that you can also use. It's fantastic. There's both for yourself as well as for students. They're interactive. And I just want to, so this is, let me see here. this is my last class that I taught. It actually was more than 5 articles created, but like if articles created versus the it will only say it if it was actually created versus they found a stub and worked on it. So, but just to give you an idea of like the importance, the articles that my students wrote have now been viewed 3.1 million times for one class, and this is last semester, 5.19 million article views. My students are being read more than anyone in my department. Probably anyone in this room, and probably all of us put together in this room. Okay? My students are being read more than all of us. This is an example of student. I have a class at UIC. It's called Public Relations and Digital Media. Instead of writing typical press releases and all those little things, I have go through steps, and at the end, what they end up producing is a Wikipedia article for a local Chicago nonprofit that either wasn't there before, there's no article, or it was in serious need of help, like it was a stub. Marwin did not exist. You all know what Marwin is? Heard of Marwin? I didn't know what Marwin was before I moved to Chicago. So Marwin is a huge. They've been around for a very long time. They do kind of after school arts education. They have ads on the Blue Line, right? Like there was no article before, and this is what the students create. And I had to make it so small you couldn't even read it because look at this. Look at the references. How many references do you typically have in a paper? My students typically have 20 to 40 references. This is 200 level class. Usually if I can get students to cite 4 things, I'm like, yeah, winner. Students are now citing 40 things. But the best one that I ever saw, I had a student who had 60 references for her article. I was just like, this is insane. Like, who cites 60 things? I have papers that I publish that have like half of that. So they also help you out because they've got not only guides, but also really great rubrics that you can utilize as well. So like basically a lot of the kind of like prep work has already been done. So this is all to say that all of this is part of the classes that I did the research on. This is the kind of context, right? They've had access to training libraries. They didn't necessarily all write full articles. That's in the data as well. We've been able to break out some of that. But they all had access to these types of things. So it wasn't like, oh yeah, I did a bunch of research on students who got kind of like thrown at Wikipedia and like, have fun. They had a lot of background. They had a lot of kind of like training, or at least they were told to go to a training. And the biggest thing is there's actual people that work at this organization, and they can kind of help, especially with some of the kind of, it's the internet. Communities are weird there. Sometimes they're not so nice. So there's actual people that work in there. And so these students all existed within this kind of, not bubble, but there was training available to them. They had some support. They had a framework. They didn't go at it they weren't just thrown at Wikipedia. Just go write something. So in fall 2016, or a little before then, so I've been teaching with Wikipedia for 7 years. And before there was a Wiki Education Foundation, there was a pilot program from the Wikimedia Foundation that ended up being spun out into a smaller foundation called the Wiki Education Foundation. And I've been teaching with them for 6, 7 classes now. So I wasn't teaching every single semester, but I had slowly evolved with that. And right as I got my PhD, I was like, oh man, I don't really know what I'm going to do next. And they happened to serendipitously have this study that they wanted to do, and they hired me on to do this year-long study where we basically were trying to figure out if all the stuff that we've been told for years and years that was anecdotal, if we could get any evidence to say this is right, this is wrong. Like we wanted to find a way to steer future research, to figure out like what's actually going on. Because we've heard from all the really happy people, like, oh, this is amazing, this is wonderful. Like I say it all the time. I tell people, oh man, Wikipedia, writing with Wikipedia does all these things. You learn information literacy, and they're like, where? Well, awesome. Where's the evidence? I don't have any. I just know it in my heart of hearts that these students are awesome, and I really like the work. So they said, oh, well, let's do a study, and they have a lot of courses. This is fall. Spring 2017, 358 courses. Fall 2017, 318 courses. They are all over the place, and all sorts of different classes. Everything from first year writing to veterinarian, like graduate programs, right? To fourth year medical, human medical kind of rotations. So all over the place. And what they did was they said, like, and this was in fall 2016, they said, hey, okay, let's go see what you can do. So and I said, oh, well, let me figure things out. And typically of me, I went and I talked to every single person that I knew that had an opinion on what is the state of research for learning outcomes, what is the state of research for kind of like students and technology. I said, what are the questions that are being asked that are really important? What are the questions that you think that are important or that are coming up or going to be important? And I had a dozen different collaborators that helped me write like a variety of different survey questions, a variety of different kind of focus group questions. And so it was it was an enormous pilot study. And we did 3 separate surveys, kind of a pre, a post, and then a more of a qualitative kind of survey. And a total of 1,627 students took that survey, and 96 instructors took there was a post course survey for instructors. And then because I don't like sleeping, I decided to also do 13 different focus groups in New England, because I lived in New England at the time. I drove around a lot, and there's over 200 participants in the 13 focus groups. And what we found was really amazing. But wait a second. So open data and methods, I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But basically, if you like digging through data, all the data in my IRB approval, I got it. I was allowed to open it up. I de-identified all of the student data. You can look at all of it. If you disagree with me on any of this, please. I would love for somebody to use that data. It took so long to clean it up and actually like release all of the not only all the code books are available, but just every single piece of data is totally open. It's under an open license. Please, let's play with data together. I look forward to that. So we found a lot of things that, and I'll be honest, it mostly just, we kind of knew this before, but we didn't have any data to support it. The students spent more time on assignments. They were more satisfied with their work. There's more perceived value for transferable skills. And here's the kicker. They massively shifted their perception of knowledge production, but specifically Wikipedia, from basically not understanding knowledge production and not trusting Wikipedia to trusting Wikipedia because they understand knowledge production. And we've actually mapped a lot of their responses to the ACRL's information literacy framework, but I can talk about that later. Students were from all over. As you can see, there's a lot of colleges in the Northeast, and there's a lot of colleges in California. This is where Wiki Education Foundation is, so you can see that's where a lot of their outreach was. But it was all over the place. And students were reported, and so this is all self-report, so I'm sorry, like I said, I'm a communication studies scholar, which means we talk about feelings. But they self-reported that they're more satisfied with their work. Not much more, but more. And a lot were saying, it turns out that when you survey undergrads, a lot of them, and when you promise them an incentive, a lot of them just are going through it and selecting same for everything, which is, I call the meh effect. Second thing also, by the way, I learned students don't read their emails. I don't think we need a study for that, but I can definitely tell you the response rate was so low. I think that is a finding. Students actually reported they were proud of their work, which is crazy, because on the flip side, students know where their writing goes after you turn it in. Trash, right? You don't put it up on your fridge, even your electronic Samsung fridge or whatever. Like, nobody's putting their papers on their fridge. But students have told me over and over again that they've shown their mom this. Students don't show their mom their essays anymore. Like, that's not what they do. So they're actually proud of it. So Wiki Education, so there is a question. Thank you for using the Google slide. This is awesome. Wiki Education, the question was, is Wiki Education the same as the people who have done this assignment, or a superset of that? So Wiki Education is the foundation that is running the, they have like an entire dashboard, as we saw with all the previously here. All of these students and all the ones that were part of the study were through Wiki Education. I actually ended up working with them to incorporate the surveys into this, so that at a certain point, this dashboard would ping them. So this is why I can actually track all of it. I can actually link all of the student data that has the surveys to class work. And you can take that classwork and you can actually look at, and if you brought in a data scientist, you can actually look at like edits over time, quality of edits. You could actually go through and actually look at the student's actual work and go through it. So, yeah. All right. So another thing, they spend a little bit more time, which is good. You don't want them spending a bunch more time because they're not going to like that. But they spend a little bit more time. So what's interesting about this is that the students, for the most part, said either same or more, a little bit more. And what I was getting back from the students when I did the focus groups, and I did the focus groups after I had a lot of this data in already, so that I could kind of try to figure out what's going on with this. Like, okay, so are you spending more time or less time? Like, well, a little bit more time. Well, okay, why do you think so? Why are you spending more time? Well, is it because the assignment takes longer? No, it takes about the same amount of time, but I really wanted to do a good job. And it turns out, when students are motivated to do a good job, this is probably the amount of time they should be spending on their assignments, right? They're spending, this is the C and B student. Well, it's C, B, B minus, and these are the A students. But it turns out that students who are actually invested in their assignment are motivated to actually do a good job. And this is, I've been saying this for years, but this is great because I've been telling, I talk to people, I can't stop talking about Wikipedia. So whenever I talk to other instructors about it, I say, no, what's great is it turns C students into B students, turns B students into A students, and the A students you already got. And you know what my least favorite thing to do is grading. I hate grading because it's you don't know, sometimes it just like goes into the air. It's like, is my feedback getting to them? Or I have to make a decision about putting a number to something that's super subjective. I just don't like that. But that makes it really easy because an A paper, I have to give very little feedback. It also means that I have more time at night because I don't have to like give a ton of feedback because they're already doing all the things that I've already asked them to do. Because half of my feedback is usually, why didn't you follow the instructions? I know you know this. You've been there. What's also interesting, so we asked, one of the questions, like I said, there's 12 different people that I collaborated with. There's a lot of different questions. So when you look at it, you're going to say, what were you thinking? I was kind of a little crazy with the different, like, huge, lots of demographic data. But there was also this question that I said, use 3 words to describe the space of Wikipedia, or I said use 3 adjectives to describe the space of Wikipedia before you edited and then after you edited. First thing is students don't know what an adjective is. But that's okay. And also a lot of them were like, what the hell is a space? I don't know what this means. But what's interesting is that, and this is super like early 2000s, so I apologize, but it's an interesting way to kind of look at it because you can see students knew that Wikipedia was informative, but overwhelmingly they found it to be unreliable beforehand. And afterwards, not only did they find it reliable, they found it to be collaborative and interesting. They found it a little interesting over here. Helpful is in both. Of course they found it helpful. Everyone finds Wikipedia helpful. But it is a major shift from informative and unreliable to informative and reliable. And we've actually gone through and we've coded these, it's in the study. We've coded these down and actually categorized them, and there's even more meaningful takeaways from this. But the biggest takeaway for me was that they were shifting from informative and unreliable to informative and reliable. And we'll come back to that a little bit more, but we also, in the focus groups, kind of pushed them on that as well and asked why. And spoiler alert, it wasn't just because they were told. One of the big series of questions that we asked was, we wanted them to rate the Wikipedia assignment at the value of the Wikipedia assignment versus a traditional writing assignment. And instructors were really excited. They valued the Wikipedia assignment more and much more for basically everything. But specifically digital literacy, online source reliability, and writing for a general audience, they found it overwhelmingly more valuable. Now, these are, they found it more for basically everything, including critical thinking and technical skills and about the class topic, but really the power here that they found is the writing for a general audience, because this is not something that we incorporated in all these classes, but specifically the digital literacy and online source reliability, which is obviously a huge issue right now. Students were a little bit more meh, same, but about the exact same questions, they also found it more or much more, but especially for this writing for a general audience and digital literacy, which a lot of students, and this would be an interesting question because I didn't actually ask this, but my belief is that students don't know the difference between digital literacy and online source reliability. They think they're kind of the same thing. So what's happening? I don't like straight survey data because I don't get to ask questions and probe. I'm kind of a probing kind of person. Most of my work has always been qualitative. This is the first time that I ever did a mixed study. I've either done just survey or just qualitative. And within these focus groups, I was trying to kind of triangulate, like try to figure out what's going on by asking the probing questions to kind of give context to some of the other data. And it turns out that students are, like I said before, they're more motivated, but they're motivated for a variety of different reasons. And one of them is that they actually feel really good about this. Right? So you're definitely more motivated to do something good that everyone approves, not just a teacher. I love this here. Maybe you don't care about grades so much. Maybe you have an opinion about your teacher. That's irrelevant. You make those changes, you have something that stands, you feel good about yourself. Wow. Students also are learning, critical skills. You're a lot more conscious of the validity of the information that you read. Oh my goodness, if we could have just like 10% more of this in the world, we would be in such a better place. Questioning mentality. It's not just, and here's the thing, it wasn't just questioning mentality, because that's what we've tried to do with information literacy this whole time. Consciousness of the validity of information that you read, right? This was weird. Okay, so when they told me this, I was like, wait, really? What? They believe that it is a resume-worthy skill. And after pressing them, they're like, no. This is a direct skill. People want us to be able to do Facebook and Twitter, and they want to work on these social media things. It turns out that they have many, and we've actually heard stories about this. Students have talked about this in their interviews and gotten jobs because they're like, oh, wait, you edit Wikipedia? What? This is weird. Because most people don't realize that anyone can edit Wikipedia. And those who do realize it and have tried often have had the experience of this is actually really hard. So students, one of the biggest things that, at least I've seen, is students are really aware that we live in a crazy world that is filled with all sorts of insane things that they feel very powerless against right now. And they want to find a way to make a difference. Right? They are chomping at the bit to make a difference in this world. And writing a paper for some random class about a topic that they are not going to care about next semester because they have barely enough brain power right now to care about this because they've got 5 other classes and this is their non-major and they've got like a second 2 jobs just to like make ends meet. There's very little bandwidth. And they look at these papers and they're like, why? Is this, I have trouble getting myself to write this 10-page paper. I'm like, why? Why would I do this? I got like other things to do. But they feel like they're actually able to contribute to something bigger. And those who are understanding the systemic biases, and this specifically was from a class that was very much not the 90% male, and very much not mostly white. And they were writing about topics that they found were massively underrepresented on Wikipedia. And I love this. So I felt more motivation to go edit it and whatever. This is a transcript, as you can tell. It's very much student. I couldn't make this stuff up. So students are and I got this over and over again. They're like, I felt, and I'll show you what this was after I stopped recording. A student came up to me and she was almost in tears. She was telling me about her project, and she was writing about this feminist poet that she really loved, but didn't have a biography on Wikipedia. And she said, this poet helped me find who I am. And, I'm gonna get all verklempt. She was like almost crying here. She was telling me that she just imagines when some little girl is looking and sees this page and might get turned on to her poetry, and it's like, this didn't exist before, and I put it there, and I feel so good about that. So, but in general, yeah, students want to make a difference. And they get that this is a problem. A lot of the stuff that we're writing about is very interconnected. I would try to link stuff, it wouldn't work, there'd be no page, because it's not random, the information that's missing from Wikipedia. They recognize that there are systemic biases in information representation. They recognize that there is a lack of information about the stuff that they are studying. And they want to find a way to help to right that wrong. And they are motivated by that. So just to come back here, because I'm here to kind of talk about the research, I have the CSVs and code books available. You can look at this. This research report is I saw a copy of it over there. It is CC by share alike. So like all of this stuff is Creative Commons licensed. You can use all of it. You can go publish with it. You can publish on your own with it. You can publish with me on it. I'm happy to work with you on it. I'm really invested in this. I continue to teach with this. It's not just a research focus for me, but it's also kind of like, this is also how I find like greater purpose in my own teaching. And I will say, students everywhere that I've taught, and especially here now at UIC, they get it. They get it. They're motivated. And there's something going on with how they're learning about information and how they're motivated to learn about information that is having a really positive effect on the way that they understand how that information is connected, the validity of that information. And I really think that this is a great space where we can start to talk about like new ways to think about information literacy, because just telling them to do this or do that or don't do something isn't working. So, thank you.